A warm September breeze swept down from the hills, rustling the barren branches of ancient oak trees. Dead leaves, painted in vibrant shades of orange and yellow, blanketed the dirt path under the fading light of the setting sun. A lone rider traveled slowly, his dark brown figure cutting through the colorful landscape of the ominous frontier. The harvest moon rose quickly as sunlight slipped away, inviting shadows and the creatures lurking within. The rider pulled his wool cloak tighter and retrieved an oil lantern from his saddlebag, lighting it against the approaching darkness. The trail became darker still, the weak moonlight offering little beyond the flickering glow of the lantern. Growing anxious, the rider urged his horse forward, eager to reach home. Stories from the villagers haunted him, whispers of beasts and witches roaming these woods. He estimated he was about a mile from safety, where the trees would break, and his fields would guide him home. Suddenly the horse froze, ears pinned back. The rider tensed as a loud crack shattered the silence. He spun in his saddle, peering into the woods, but the dim light revealed nothing. Without warning, the horse bolted, hooves digging into soft dirt and scattered leaves. The rider lost his balance and slipped, one foot caught in the stirrup. Hitting the ground hard, he felt himself dragged through brush and branches as the terrified horse ran wildly. Desperate, the rider unlaced his boot and freed himself, tumbling to the base of a tree. Gasping, he clutched his ribs, his body aching. The distant sound of his horse's frantic retreat faded, leaving him alone in thick darkness. Silence pressed down around him, broken only by his labored breathing. Determined to escape, he limped forward, his thoughts filled with images of home. His children playing by the hearth, his wife waiting with warmth and comfort. A sudden, sharp pain shot through his foot as a thorn pierced deep into the skin. He winced, blood trickling from the wound. As he rubbed his injured foot, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over him. The darkness seemed heavier, oppressive. Then he heard it, a low, guttural breathing. Not human, but not like any animal he knew. Leaves crunched under something heavy. Panic surged through his veins. Adrenaline took over, and he sprinted through the woods, crashing through branches, screaming for help, mercy and deliverance. A hidden root caught his foot, sending him sprawling into the dirt. He gasped as moonlight suddenly lit the landscape. He had reached the edge of the fields. Relief flooded him and he laughed, thanking God as he saw his house in the distance. He strode confidently toward home, unaware of the shadow lurking nearby. Towering on its hind legs, a monstrous beast emerged, muscles rippling under thick fur. Its glowing eyes locked onto the rider, studying him like prey. Before the man could react, massive claws tore into his stomach. The creature lifted him effortlessly, biting down with a sickening crunch. Blood sprayed as it shredded the body, scattering entrails across the field. Inside the house, Agatha sat mending her son's trousers, listening to her children play. Distant bone-chilling howl made her pause, fear prickling her skin. She glanced toward the fields but saw nothing, and shook off the unease, telling herself it was just the devil trying to frighten her. Returning to her sewing, she whispered scripture under her breath, wishing her husband were home. A movement caught her eye. The beast stared back at her, hunger gleaming in its eyes. It dropped onto all fours and crept forward with deadly precision. Before Agatha could scream, it lunged, ripping open her chest. Blood poured as the creature devoured her organs. Henry, the eldest child, stood frozen in horror. His mother's dying eyes met his, her lips forming silent words. Paralyzed, he watched the light leave her face. The beast pulled back, intestines dangling from its bloodied muzzle. Towering over Henry, it roared. "Run!" he shouted to his siblings, snapping out of his terror. But it was too late. The monster descended on him in a frenzy of claws and fur. Above the carnage, a coven of witches hovered on brooms, cackling as they watched the massacre unfold. One by one, the beast hunted down the remaining children until the fields fell silent. The witches landed, gathering the 13 blood-streaked skulls and the sole survivor, an infant boy. Deep in the forbidden forest, farther than any frontiersman dared venture, they performed their dark ritual. The infant lay at the center of the grisly circle. The witches danced wildly around a blazing pyre, summoning their dark master. Suddenly, all fell silent as the sound of cloven hooves approached. A towering figure, shrouded in shadows, emerged. Gloved hands lifted the baby gently. The witches knelt, chanting as Satan wrapped the boy in a black leather cloak. His wings spread wide, lifting him into the air. The witches' chants turned to screams as their powers were stripped away. Desperate to flee, they tried to mount their brooms, but the beast, now under Satan's command, tore them apart. When the chaos ended, only a blood-soaked man remained, lying amidst the carnage. He wept softly, the horrifying truth dawning upon him. He had made a deal, and now he was the monster.